The massive alien fleet appeared near Neptune like ghosts stepping out of darkness. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the viewing window of the diplomatic station called Threshold and watched 300 warships take position around her small station. Each ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their surfaces glowed with strange lights and symbols that hurt to look at directly. Elena was 53 years old. She had spent 30 years as a diplomat, talking to alien species, learning their ways, finding common ground. But she had never seen anything like this. This was not a delegation coming to talk. This was a message written in metal and fire. The conclave of elder species had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. 12 ancient races who had mastered technology when humanity's ancestors were still learning to walk upright. They decided which young species would be allowed to grow and which would be removed like weeds from a garden. Humanity had always known this day might come. They had hoped it would not. A light on Elena's console blinked. The conclave wanted to speak. She pressed the button and the air in front of her shimmered. A shape appeared, floating like a crystal made of frozen light. This was a Vorathi arbiter, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. Its voice came from everywhere at once, cold and ancient. Ambassador Vasquez, the conclave has completed its assessment of your species. We have watched humanity for 300 years. We have studied your history, your biology, your psychology. We have reached our conclusion. Elena kept her face calm. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. And what conclusion is that? Humanity is dangerous. Not because of your technology, which is primitive. Not because of your numbers, which are small. You are dangerous because of what you are. Your species thinks like predators. You hunt. You chase. You do not stop. This is not normal for intelligent beings. Elena said nothing. She waited. We have seen your history, the arbiter continued. Your wars that lasted generations. Your ability to hate and love with equal intensity. The way you turned wolves into dogs and made predators sleep in your homes like children. The way you hunted animals across open plains until they died of exhaustion. Other species run from threats. Your species follows threats until they fall. The crystal being pulsed with light. The conclave has ruled that humanity must be contained. You will surrender all military technology. You will accept biological modification to reduce your aggressive tendencies. You will submit to permanent monitoring. You have one of your months to comply. Elena felt cold spread through her chest, but her voice remained calm. And if we refuse, then you will be removed. Completely. Your worlds will be burned. Your colonies will be erased. Your species will become a lesson that we teach to other young races about the price of defiance. The arbiter's form began to fade. 1 month, Ambassador. Use it wisely. Then it was gone. The alien fleet began to move away, disappearing into the darkness between stars as quickly as they had come. Elena stood alone at the window for a long time. Then she walked to her communication console and opened a channel to Earth. Her message was short. This is Ambassador Vasquez, Code Omega. They have given us an ultimatum. Surrender or die. We have 30 days. She sent the message and sat down heavily in her chair. Her hands were shaking now that no one could see them. She had just witnessed humanity being sentenced to death by beings older than their solar system. On Earth, the message arrived like a bomb. Emergency lights flashed in government buildings across every continent. Leaders woke from sleep to find their worst fears confirmed. The conclave had finally noticed humanity and found them wanting. The United Earth Council gathered within hours. Presidents and prime ministers sat around a huge table, their faces gray with shock. They argued and shouted and demanded answers that no one could give. But while the politicians talked, something else was happening. Deep in classified military networks, a different message was spreading. It moved through secure channels that officially did not exist. It reached hidden facilities buried under mountains and floating in the darkness between planets. It woke sleeping systems that had waited decades for this moment. The message was simple. Winter protocol active. In a bunker beneath the Alps, General Marcus Stone read the alert and felt something strange. Not fear. Something else. Something that had been sleeping in his chest for his entire career. He thought about what the Arbiter had said about humans being hunters. He thought about how his grandfather had told him stories of ancient humans chasing deer for days until the animals simply fell down and died. The conclave thought they were giving humanity an ultimatum. They thought humans would react like prey animals, frozen with fear, desperate to survive. They had no idea what they had just woken up. General Stone picked up a secure phone and called his counterpart in the Pacific Fleet. "You got the alert?" "Yes, sir. Winter protocol. Never thought we would actually use it." "Neither did I. Start the activation sequence. Quietly. We have 30 days to show these ancient bastards something they have never seen before." "What's that, sir?" Stone smiled. And it was not a nice smile. "What happens when you corner something that refuses to be prey?" Across human space, similar conversations were happening. Secret facilities that appeared on no maps began to hum with activity. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields for decades received activation codes. Sleeper cells on neutral stations received sealed orders and began to read them with growing understanding. The Conclave had given humanity 1 month to surrender. They expected fear. They expected submission. They expected the behavior of prey animals facing a predator too large to fight. They did not understand that they had just made a terrible mistake. Humanity had been pretending to be sheep. But sheep do not dream of hunting wolves. Sheep do not spend centuries quietly building weapons in the dark. Sheep do not pass down stories of chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. The hunt was about to begin. And for the first time in their ancient existence, the Conclave was going to learn what it felt like to be followed by something that never, ever stopped. Dr. Marcus Chen had been teaching xenoanthropology at Cambridge for 15 years. He studied alien cultures, trying to understand how different species thought and lived. It was quiet work, academic work. He never expected armed soldiers to arrive at his office door. "Dr. Chen, please come with us. Your expertise is needed." They flew him to the moon, to a facility that existed in no database he could access, underground, past security checkpoints that scanned his eyes and blood, into a room filled with military commanders who looked like they had not slept in days. A woman in an admiral's uniform approached him. "Dr. Chen, I am Admiral Yuki Tanaka. You are about to learn things that are highly classified. You cannot speak of them to anyone outside this room. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded. His mouth was dry. "Good. We need you to brief these commanders on the persistence files." Marcus felt his blood go cold. The persistence files were legend among xenoanthropologists, a collection of research that explained why humans were psychologically different from every other intelligent species ever discovered. He had heard rumors about it. He never believed it actually existed. Admiral Tanaka handed him a data pad. "You have 1 hour to review. Then you present." Marcus read. And as he read, everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the universe changed. The research was decades old, compiled from hundreds of sources. It compared human psychology to that of the 37 intelligent species humanity had encountered. The conclusion was stunning in its simplicity. Almost every intelligent species in the galaxy had evolved from prey animals, creatures who survived by running away, by hiding, by avoiding conflict. Their brains were wired for fear and flight. When threatened, their deepest instinct was to escape or submit. Humans were different. Humans had evolved from persistence hunters. For millions of years, their ancestors had not outrun prey or overpowered it. They had followed it, hour after hour, day after day. They walked after animals until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. No other species hunted this way. No other species could. This hunting method had shaped everything about human psychology. Humans were patient. Humans could ignore pain and exhaustion. Humans became more focused and dangerous under stress. Not less. Their bodies released chemicals that sharpened their minds and dulled their pain when threatened. Most importantly, humans did not have the instinct to give up. When a prey species faced impossible odds, something in their brain told them to stop fighting and accept death. Humans did not have this switch. They would fight with broken bones. They would crawl toward their enemies with their last breath. They simply did not know how to surrender. Marcus presented these findings to the assembled commanders. He watched their faces change as they understood what the research meant. The conclave species evolved from prey animals, Marcus explained. Their psychology is built around threat avoidance. They fight when they must, but their deepest instinct is to run or submit when facing superior force. They expect us to behave the same way. "But we won't," said a gray-haired general. "We can't," Marcus corrected. "It's not a choice. Our brains don't work that way. We can decide to retreat strategically. We can choose to negotiate. But true surrender, the deep acceptance of defeat that stops a prey animal from fighting, That is not in our nature. We will keep coming until we win, or until the last human is dead, Admiral Tanaka spoke up. This is why the Conclave fears us. Not our weapons, not our ships. They are afraid of what we are. While Marcus was giving his briefing, Admiral Tanaka was also coordinating something else. In her other role, she commanded assets that officially did not exist, hidden in asteroid fields across human space. Shipyards that had been building in secret for 2 centuries began to accelerate their work. Ships that looked like mining vessels opened their hulls to reveal weapons batteries. Cargo freighters jettisoned their fake containers to expose torpedo tubes. For 200 years, humanity had known this day might come. They had watched the Conclave destroy other young species. They had seen the pattern, and they had prepared, not openly. That would have invited destruction. Instead, they hid their preparations inside normal activities. Military research disguised as commercial development, weapons platforms hidden inside communication satellites, entire fleets of warships masked as civilian transports. The Conclave had been watching humanity for 3 centuries. But they had been watching what humanity wanted them to see. On the edge of human space, Sergeant Major David Okonkwo led his team through the darkness toward a Conclave observation post. Their mission was to capture the station's intelligence archives without raising an alarm. The station was crewed by beings called the Sethrani, an elder species known for their scientific minds. They had been watching human activity for decades, recording and analyzing. They felt perfectly safe. Why would they not? Humans were primitive. Humans were weak. Humans were about to be destroyed. David and his team moved through the station like shadows. They had trained for years for missions like this. They could control their heartbeats. They could suppress the small sounds of breathing and movement that even machines could not detect. The Sethrani never saw them coming. When David's team finally revealed themselves, weapons ready, the Sethrani's reaction was immediate and instinctive. They froze. Their large eyes went wide. Some of them made high sounds of terror. David had seen this before. Prey animals did this when facing predators. It was a survival instinct, hoping the predator might lose interest if they stayed still enough. But humans were not predators that hunted movement. Humans were predators that hunted prey itself. Stillness meant nothing to them. Secure them, David ordered quietly. Do not harm them, unless necessary. The captured data from the station revealed the Conclave's true assessment of humanity. They were not worried about human technology. They were worried about human nature. Their reports described humans as psychologically aberrant and evolutionarily dangerous. One report, written centuries ago, made a recommendation that had been ignored. This species should be destroyed now, while they are weak. If we wait, they will become strong, and they will never stop fighting us. The Conclave had not listened. They had believed they could control humanity with threats and ultimatums. They had believed humans would behave like every other species, submitting to superior force. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The Conclave fleet returned on the last day of the deadline. This time there were not 300 ships. There were 3,000. 12 elder species had sent their warships. They hung in space around the diplomatic station like a wall of steel and light, blotting out the stars. Ambassador Elena Vasquez watched them arrive. She had not slept much in the past month. None of humanity's leaders had. But she felt strangely calm now. The waiting was almost over. She requested a meeting with the Vorathi Arbiter. The alien agreed. Perhaps it wanted to witness humanity's surrender personally. Perhaps it simply enjoyed the moment before a kill. The Arbiter materialized in the meeting chamber, its crystal form pulsing with cold light. Ambassador Vasquez. The time has come. What is humanity's answer? Elena stood straight. Her voice did not shake. Before I give our answer, I would like to share something with you. A gift of knowledge, from one intelligent species to another. The Arbiter's lights flickered. It was surprised. This was not how prey animals behaved in their final moments. Very well. Show me. Elena activated a holographic display. The first image appeared, footage from Earth's ancient past. It showed a group of humans on an open plain. They were following an antelope. Not running, just walking, following. The footage continued. Hours passed. The humans kept following. The antelope ran when they got close, then stopped to rest. But the humans never stopped. They walked through the hottest part of the day. They walked as the sun began to set. They followed the antelope's tracks, through the night. By the next morning, the antelope could barely stand. Its heart was failing. It had run itself to death trying to escape predators that never tired, never stopped, never gave up. "This is what we are," Elena said. "This is how we hunted for millions of years. We do not outrun our prey. We do not overpower it. We simply follow it until it dies." The Arbiter was silent. Elena showed the second image. Charts and graphs comparing human stress responses to those of conclave species. When your species experience fear, their bodies prepare them to run or hide. When humans experience fear, our bodies prepare us to fight longer and harder. Fear does not weaken us. It makes us more dangerous. When we are injured, our minds become clearer, not clouded. When we are outnumbered, we become more determined, not less. We evolved to face threats that we could not escape. We evolved to fight when running was not an option. The Arbiter's crystal form had stopped pulsing. It was completely still. Elena showed the third image, a strategic assessment written by human military theorists. "Your intelligence reports say that we are primitive. This is true. Our technology is inferior. Your weapons are stronger. Your ships are faster. By any logical measure, we should surrender." She paused. "But you have made a terrible mistake. You have approached this as a confrontation between predator and prey. You expected us to act like the other species you have conquered. You expected fear to break our will." Elena looked directly at the Arbiter. "We are not prey. We never were. You came to our door with threats and ultimatums. You told us to submit or die. And we have spent the last month preparing our answer." She pressed a control on her console. "This is humanity's answer." Across human space, the Winter Protocol reached its final stage. Hidden weapons platforms came online by the thousands. They had been disguised as asteroids, as space debris, as abandoned stations. Now they revealed their true nature, targeting the Conclave fleet. Concealed fleets emerged from hiding places that the Conclave had never suspected. From the atmospheres of gas giants, from hollowed-out moons, from the deep darkness between stars where even the elder species never thought to look. On neutral stations and trading posts throughout the region, sleeper cells activated. They seized communication relays and transportation hubs. They cut the connections that held the Conclave's supply lines together. And across every frequency, in every language, a message broadcast to every ship in the Conclave fleet. "You found the hunters. Now you will learn what that means." The Arbiter's crystal form flickered wildly. It was receiving reports from its fleet. Impossible reports. Human ships appearing from nowhere. Hidden weapons targeting their vessels. Communications being jammed. "This is impossible," the Arbiter said. Its voice had changed. There was something in it that Elena had never heard from an elder species before. "You could not have hidden this from us. We watched you for 3 centuries. You watched what we wanted you to see," Elena replied. "You saw a young species struggling to expand. Primitive. Weak. Not worth destroying until we became a threat. But we were always a threat. We were just patient." The Arbiter's lights pulsed rapidly. "Even with these hidden forces, you cannot win. Our technology is superior. Our numbers are greater." Elena smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You are probably right. We probably cannot win. But we do not need to win. And we will never stop fighting. Never. Your species gives up when the odds become hopeless. Mine does not. We will fight you for a year, for 10 years, for 100 years. We will make you bleed for every world, every station, every ship. And when you finally destroy the last human, you will have paid such a price that your empire will never recover." She stepped closer to the Arbiter. "So ask yourself, is destroying us worth destroying yourselves?" The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was quiet. "You truly would not stop, even facing certain destruction. You would fight to the last." "Yes," Elena said simply. "That is what we are. That is what you failed to understand. You gave us one last warning. Now we are giving you yours. You can have peace with humanity, or you can have war. But if you choose war, know that it will only end one way, with one of our species extinct, and we do not intend for it to be us." The first shots of the war were already being fired. Human ships were engaging Conclave vessels throughout the region. The battle for humanity's survival had begun. But Elena saw something in the Arbiter's flickering light that gave her hope. Not fear exactly. Something older. Something that lived in the deepest part of every prey animal's brain. The realization that it had made a terrible mistake. That it had cornered something that should never have been cornered. That it was no longer the predator. The war should have been over in weeks. The Conclave's ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their numbers overwhelming. Human vessels burned by the hundreds in those first terrible days. Colony worlds fell silent under orbital bombardment. The Conclave pushed deep into human space, crushing every fleet that stood against them. The elder species had fought wars before. They knew how these things went. Young species resisted at first, driven by fear and desperation. Then, as losses mounted, their will broke. They sued for peace. They accepted whatever terms the Conclave offered. This was the natural order of things, but humanity did not break. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood in the command center of the hidden base on Titan, watching the reports come in. Bad news. More bad news. Destroyed ships, lost worlds, numbers that would have made any other species surrender. Her staff watched her, waiting for the order to negotiate, to seek terms, to end the slaughter. Continue the operation, she said calmly. All units proceed as planned. The Conclave commanders were puzzled. Their analysts told them that humanity had suffered enough losses to shatter the will of any species. The humans should be begging for peace by now. Instead, they were still fighting. Not just fighting, but adapting. In the first month, human ships charged straight at Conclave vessels, trying to overwhelm them with numbers. This did not work. Human losses were catastrophic. In the second month, human tactics changed completely. They stopped trying to fight fleet against fleet. Instead, they scattered. Small groups of ships began hitting Conclave supply convoys, raiding fuel depots, attacking communication relays, and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. The Conclave admirals dismissed this as desperation, the actions of a dying species lashing out at random. They were wrong. Every raid taught humanity something new. How Conclave sensors worked, how quickly their ships could respond, where their supply lines were weakest. Human scientists worked around the clock, analyzing captured technology, reverse engineering weapons and shields, finding weaknesses that the elder species had never bothered to fix. By the third month, human ships began appearing in places they should not have been able to reach, using jump points that the Conclave had thought were secret, equipped with weapons that had not existed weeks before. Commander Thex of the Sithrani war fleet sent increasingly worried reports to the Conclave Council. "They are learning too fast," he wrote. "Every tactic we use, they counter within days. Every advantage we exploit, they eliminate. They are not fighting like a species facing extinction. They are fighting like predators, testing their prey." The psychological toll on Conclave forces began to mount. The elder species had evolved from prey animals. Their deepest instincts told them to flee from persistent threats. They could tolerate short, intense conflicts. But this was something different. Human forces attacked constantly. Not large attacks that could be met with overwhelming force. Small attacks. Endless attacks. Ships appearing from nowhere. Striking. And disappearing. Conclave crews began to crack. They slept in shifts, weapons ready, never knowing when the next attack would come. They saw human ships in every shadow, heard human communications in every burst of static. Some crews refused to leave port, others fired at friendly vessels, their fear overwhelming their training. A Vorathi commander filed a report that was suppressed by the Conclave Council. "Our soldiers are experiencing something we have no word for," he wrote. "A persistent fear that does not fade. The humans do not need to destroy us, they just need to follow us." And they never stop following. On occupied human worlds, the Conclave faced another problem they had not expected: resistance. When the elder species conquered a world, resistance usually ended within weeks. The population submitted. This was rational. What could unarmed civilians do against orbital weapons and advanced ground forces? Human civilians did not submit. On the colony world of New Melbourne, Conclave forces declared pacification complete after destroying all organized resistance. 3 months later, their garrison was under constant attack. Bombs hidden in buildings, snipers firing from rubble, supply convoys ambushed on roads that had been cleared the day before. The humans had no weapons that could threaten Conclave ships in orbit. So they attacked the soldiers on the ground. They attacked the support staff. They attacked the supply lines that kept the occupation running. They turned every street corner into a potential death trap. Conclave commanders rotated their troops frequently to prevent psychological breakdown. It did not help. The replacements broke just as quickly. They were not built for this kind of war. No species was built for this kind of war, except one. 6 months after the war began, Admiral Tanaka executed her master plan. For half a year, human forces had been tracking every Conclave fleet movement, analyzing patterns, identifying critical nodes, learning exactly how the elder species organized their war machine. The Conclave's technological advantage depended on a sophisticated network of support facilities, fuel refineries, repair stations, communication relays, supply depots. Without this network, their advanced ships were just expensive boxes floating in space. On a single day, human forces struck 37 critical targets simultaneously. Not the fleets themselves. The infrastructure behind them. Fuel depots exploded. Communication relays went dark. Repair stations were captured or destroyed. Supply convoys found their routes blocked by debris fields and minefields that had not been there the day before. The Conclave's advance stopped, not because their fleets had been destroyed. Their ships still outnumbered humanity's. Their weapons were still superior. But an army without supplies is just a group of starving soldiers. A fleet without fuel is just a collection of drifting metal. For the first time since the war began, the Conclave Council met to discuss something they had never considered. The possibility that this conflict might not be short, that humans might simply keep fighting, forever, until the Conclave had nothing left. They cannot win, argued a Varathi elder. Our technology is superior. Our numbers are greater, but they are not trying to win, replied a Sethrani analyst. They are trying to make us bleed, and they are succeeding. At current rates of loss, our military capacity will be reduced by 40% within 2 years. Theirs is actually increasing. The council chamber fell silent. How is that possible? We are destroying their ships faster than they can build them. Yes, but their population has unified behind the war effort. Their production is increasing. Their recruitment is increasing. Our populations are demanding an end to the conflict. Theirs are volunteering to join it. The analyst paused. They are not fighting like prey animals defending their territory. They are fighting like predators who have finally found prey worth chasing. And they will not stop until they have won, or until every last one of them is dead. The hunt had only begun. And the Conclave was starting to understand that they were not the hunters. 3 years had passed since the Conclave delivered its ultimatum. The war that was supposed to last weeks had become something the elder species had never experienced. A wound that would not stop bleeding. The Varathi arbiter moved through the corridors of the negotiation station with careful steps. Once, it had glided through these halls with the confidence of an apex predator. Now it moved like something being watched. Because it was. Human guards stood at every doorway. They were polite, professional, but their eyes tracked every movement the arbiter made. Predator eyes, hunter eyes. The arbiter had learned to recognize that look. It haunted its dreams now. The meeting chamber was simple. A table, chairs designed for both human and alien bodies. Ambassador Elena Vasquez was already waiting. She looked older than she had 3 years ago. There were lines on her face that had not been there before. Gray in her hair, but her eyes were the same. Calm, patient, unafraid. Arbiter, she said. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I did not have much choice. The arbiter replied. The Conclave Council has decided that this war must end. I see. Elena gestured to a chair. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. The negotiation had taken months to arrange. 3 years of war had changed everything. 4 elder species had already withdrawn from the Conclave, their populations refusing to continue a conflict that brought only death and fear. The remaining 8 species were divided. Some wanted to continue the fight. Others wanted peace at any price. Humanity had paid a terrible cost. Millions dead, colony worlds burned, ships destroyed faster than they could be replaced. By any rational measure, they should have collapsed long ago. They had not collapsed. Instead, something strange had happened. Human society had become more unified than ever before. People who had argued about politics and borders and resources now worked together with single-minded focus. Children grew up hearing stories of sacrifice and resistance. When they turned 18, they volunteered for service in numbers that broke all records. Human production had increased every year of the war. Not decreased, increased. Factories worked around the clock. Scientists developed new weapons faster than the Conclave could counter them. Military academies graduated officers who had studied nothing but Conclave tactics since childhood. The elder species fought to survive. Humanity fought because fighting was what they did. "What are your terms?" the Arbiter asked. Elena slid a document across the table. "Complete withdrawal from human space. Recognition of human sovereignty over all currently claimed territories. No restrictions on human military development." The Arbiter read the terms. They were not harsh. No demands for reparations. No requirements for Conclave territory. No humiliation. "You could ask for more," the Arbiter said slowly. "Your forces have pushed into Conclave space. You have captured several of our systems. You could demand them as payment for the war." Elena shook her head. "We do not want your territory. We never did. We only want to be left alone." "Then why did you fight so hard? Why did you refuse to surrender when any rational species would have accepted our terms?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Do you know what persistence hunting is, Arbiter? You showed me footage of it 3 years ago, before the war began." "Yes. But do you understand what it means? What it really means?" The Arbiter's crystal form flickered. I am not certain. For millions of years, our ancestors survived by chasing prey until it could not run anymore. Not because they were faster, not because they were stronger, because they could keep going when everything else had to stop." Elena leaned forward. "That is not just how we hunted, Arbiter. That is who we are. We do not give up because giving up is not in our nature. We do not surrender because our brains do not know how to surrender. You asked us to change what we fundamentally are. We could not have accepted your terms even if we had wanted to." The Arbiter was silent. "You thought you were dealing with a prey species that had developed intelligence," Elena continued. "You expected us to react like prey, to run when threatened, to submit when cornered. But we are not prey. We never were. We are what happens when persistence hunters develop starships. And now?" the Arbiter asked. "Now that the war is ending, what will humanity do?" Elena sat back. Her eyes were distant, looking at something the Arbiter could not see. "We will rebuild. We will grow. We will spread across the galaxy. Not because we want to conquer, but because that is what humans do. We explore. We expand. We follow the horizon wherever it leads. And the Conclave? We will remember what you tried to do," Elena said. There was no anger in her voice, just truth. "We will never forget. And we will be watching. But we do not need revenge. We just need you to understand something." "What?" Elena met the Arbiter's gaze directly. "The hunt only ends when the hunter decides it is over. We are choosing to end it. Today, right now. Not because we have to, because we want to. Remember that." The treaty was signed 3 days later. Conclave forces withdrew from human space. The war that had lasted 3 years was officially over. But the effects of that war would echo across the galaxy for centuries. Decades later, the Conclave Council met to discuss a new intelligent species discovered at the edge of known space. They had just developed faster than light travel. The question was how to approach them. One faction argued for the old way. Deliver an ultimatum. Force them to submit or face destruction. This had worked for millions of years. A Vorathi elder rose to speak. It was old now, older than most beings in the galaxy. It remembered the war with humanity. It still saw human eyes in its dreams. "Look at them," the elder said, projecting data about the new species. "Look at their history, their evolution. See how they hunt? See how they fight?" The council looked. The new species had evolved from prey animals. Like most intelligent beings, they ran from threats. They hid from danger. They submitted when faced with superior force. "They are not like the humans," the elder said. "They will accept our terms. They will submit." The council relaxed. "But," the elder continued, "how long before we find another species that does not submit? How long before we corner another predator and give it no choice but to fight?" The chamber was silent. "I say we learn the lesson that humanity taught us. Not every species should be given ultimatums. Not every young race should be forced to submit. Some species should simply be left alone." The council debated. In the end, They reached a new policy. Before approaching any young species, the conclave would study their psychology, their evolution, their nature, and if they showed signs of being like the humans, they would be left in peace, because the elder species had finally learned something that would change the galaxy forever. Some species were prey, some species were hunters, and you did not want to find out which one you had cornered until it was far, far too late. On Earth, Elena Vasquez had retired from diplomacy. She lived in a small house by the ocean, watching the waves roll in. Sometimes reporters came to interview her about the war. She always refused, but sometimes, late at night, she would walk on the beach and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the conclave was still watching, still afraid. Good, she thought. Let them be afraid, because humanity was still here, still growing, still spreading across the galaxy like their ancestors had spread across the African plains millions of years ago, still hunting, and they would never, ever stop.